I do feel fine. It's the end of the world. I love that song. My name is Marz Theron, and this show is called Conspiracy Comedy News. What's so funny about conspiracy? What's so funny? I can't tell you. Oh, there's been so much going on this week. It's a madhouse, a madhouse. So let's get ready for the news. I like to start out the show sometimes with fun with Twitter. Today, our commander-in-chief, our leader of the most high, on high, Donald Trump, tweeted. I don't know why they won't take his Twitter away from him, but he's still got it. He's typed, and I quote, "Just out, the Trump administration," it's just out. The Obama administration knew far in advance of November 8th about election meddling by Russia. Did nothing about it. Why? In capital letters, why? The comment he came after the Washington Post put out an article, one of our most prominent fake news outlets, the Washington Post. They reported Friday that Obama was informed by the CIA last August that Vladimir Putin, personally ordered a cyber campaign to help Trump win the U.S. presidential race. Why are they still pushing this lie? But they also claim that Obama did issue at least 4 direct warnings to Putin, and the American spy chief also warned his Russian counterpart via top diplomatic channels. Oh, really? And Obama also expelled 35 Russians and added to existing sanctions. They were ready to push this lie before the election. They had this whole thing ready in their little weapons roster there, their little holster of bullets, to throw that in. I don't know why they won't give this ridiculous story a rest. Let's recap, shall we? Obama, his intelligence chiefs, and a collaborative mainstream media insisted, without presenting any real evidence, that the Russians had hacked into Democratic emails and released them to the devastating advantage of Trump. Oh, really? They've been telling us all along. Actually, they don't talk about it, but they just kind of act like it's a big deal, right? That the Russians everywhere, Russians. They're telling us that these minor controversies from leaked emails of the Democratic National Committee and Trump and John Podesta, Clinton's campaign chairman, that they explained Trump's victory. It was like the WikiLeaks kind of a thing, and they were trying to say that's Russians. Or do they really want us to believe that somehow magically the Russians flipped our elections? I've seen that also kind of spilled at us, that somehow they hacked into the election systems. It's all balderdash. I'm telling you. This is balderdash. They can't do it. They can't do it. Our election machines can flip elections. That's what they're designed to do. These electronic voting machines, Diebold, ENS, and the ES&S, Hart InterCivic, they're all designed and put out by people to do 2 things. One of them is to make everybody involved in the purchase and the distribution extremely wealthy, because they're expensive machines, and they're designed to flip elections. That's what they're for. Russians aren't there. You have to be in the control room. You have to be in control of these machines here in this country at the precinct level. You have to be a part of a major conspiracy involving election fraud at the polls, programming the machines, installing the programmed machines, hiding boxes full of ballots, physically handling and counting votes. I went over this last week. It's like, come on, now they're still talking about what? Don't they listen to my show? They could have learned a thing or two. When Jill Stein demanded the recounts in key states and precincts, they found flagrant election fraud. They uncovered precincts where there were impossibly high votes for Hillary and votes stolen from Trump. The numbers didn't change the way they wanted them to. They went the opposite way. They found more votes for Trump and less for Hillary. And nobody found any Russian spies hiding there anywhere that they had done anything. They found the usual election rigging by the people in place. The ones that we trust to give us a fair election. No one was arrested despite major evidence of election tampering. Nobody. Standard procedure in our fake elections. So, hell with that whole thing. They just keep throwing it in our face. They hoping we're stupid and that all we're going to think about is that. It's the Russians. They want to vilify the Russians. But meanwhile, we got some people telling the truth. U.S. Senator Tim Kaine, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he bluntly disagrees with the Pentagon's position to attack Syria, which is cool, but it's also kind of normal in our government that it's left versus right. You know, he has sharply condemned the U.S. military strikes on the Syrian government forces. Kaine, he's a Democrat from Virginia, right? And he said Wednesday, I think the military action is being taken against Syrian government assets is completely illegal. The 2001 authorization said we can take action against the perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks, but nobody claims that Syria was a perpetrator. Nobody claims that they are connected to Al-Qaeda. In fact, they're battling against Al-Qaeda in Syria. So I think this is a completely unlawful use of power. Attaboy, Timmy. Timmy Kaine, stepping up. But the Trumposaurus Rex, he gave the military and the CIA a free rein when he came into power just not that long ago. He just gave it to them, said, y'all go on and do what you do, and you don't even have to ask permission. That's our commander-in-chief, delegating authority. Attaboy, y'all go out there and do what you do best. He gave them authority to do as they please, mass murder, wherever they want. Charles Lister of the Middle East Institute says there isn't an overarching U.S. strategy driving this. This is just the result, he says, of tactical decisions by a commander on the ground whose only focus is a specific theater in Syria. He's acting to protect his assets. This is purely a series of tactical decisions. They are creating a series of very serious strategic consequences. Well, he's right. You know, we've never had a coherent Syrian strategy. Our country just sticks our military into all these other countries. But first, we stick our mercenaries in there, right? It's like lather, rinse, repeat. Stick the mercenaries in there, have them wreck the place, and say, we got to go get them Al-Qaedas and them ISISes and them all the other names, all nurses and all blah, 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 blah. Just got to go get them because they're there, so we got to go. We got to we're defending our country. We're spreading freedom. So officially, we oppose Assad because we want to take Syria apart, like all the other countries our military has attacked since 9/11. So that's the official stance. We claim that our main enemy is ISIS, Al-Qaeda, et cetera, which we could created and fund and direct as our mercenary armies against Assad and all the other leaders du jour in the countries that several of them we placed into power, like Saddam Hussein, for example. And others were the legitimate elected leaders. Oh, we're spreading democracy by taking out the democratically elected leader. Yeah, that makes sense. Doesn't it make sense? And then there are our allies, the Kurds, and Turkey, which is a NATO ally and host to an air base that is central to our efforts, hypothetically speaking. They consider the Kurds enemies. See? You see what I'm saying? We're on the Kurd side and the Turkey side, and those two guys are enemies. It's a quagmire, I'm telling you. Giggity, to quote Mr. Cat Quagmire. I believe he's involved in this actively. So for Tim Kaine, a Democrat, formerly Hillary's running mate, by the way, to step up and tell the truth, it's actually par for the course, because that's what they do. The Republicans lie for themselves, but they'll tell the truth if it hurts the Democrats. Whenever there's a Republican in the White House, the Democrats are free to tell the truth if it makes the Republicans look bad. How convenient. They don't even have to make up lies to make, because when the Democratic shoe is on the foot in the White House, then the Republicans can tell the truth. Just like when Obama was there, right? And this global warming fraud thing came about and it was pushed by Al Gore, who was cheated out of the White House by W. The Republicans got to call BS on that fraud. as well they should, because that's how it works. As long as the pendulum is pointing at the people that you want to vilify, then you can tell the truth about them. And then later on, when you're in power, you can renege on it. And nobody seems to notice, do they? I remember listening to Air America. I was talking about that last week. And, all those radio hosts, they were pointing out the crimes of W. And there were plenty of crimes. W was a terrible person involved in that. He was president while they pulled out the false flag of 9/11. So he got to instill all these horrible draconian laws into our books, which makes it possible for them to spy on us, for them to attack anybody they want. But as soon as the pendulum swung the other way and Obama got into the White House of Thrones, all those crimes are okie dokie, as long as their guy was committing them, as long as Barkey was committing them. Yeah, because that was their guy, their hero. Go ahead, Barkey, mass murder in all the countries you like. Renege on all your campaign promises. We don't care. Does it sound racist when I say that Obama reneged? Anyway, forget I said that. It doesn't matter to us where you're born, that your health care plan violates the Constitution. Oh, no, it doesn't matter to us. You're our hero. You're our white knight on a black horse. And it costs a hell of a lot more than you said it would. We don't care. We don't care that your wife is a man. You're our hero du jour. And speaking of the health care bill, while we're on that subject, Mitch McConnell has rejected the health care bill that came through the House. And because he's over there running the Senate, he's going to put it out in the Senate. Another version, watered down further, just taking bad news into worse news and the worst, just ripping it apart and making it into something that, my advice, ladies and gentlemen, is just don't get sick. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Nothing's going to good. Some people think this is going to be the crime of the century, and this is just the beginning of the century, this particular version of the health care bill. Anyway, that's too complicated to go on into in this short show. So let me talk to you about something else that fascinates me. The United Nations, the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, he has appointed a veteran Russian diplomat, Vladimir Voronkov, as the first head of the world body's newly established counterterrorism office. Da-da-da! Da-da-da-da-da-da! The guy put a Russian in charge of the counterterrorism office. Yay! I bet there's some fuming going on in the axis of evil, the NATO countries that have been pushing this terrorism and helping with all the different alphabet groups, the Al-Qaeda's and Al-Nusra's and ISIS's. Anyway, the Secretary General said that the world body has a problem of coordination of the 38 entities that deal with counterterrorism currently. So it makes full sense to have a dedicated office. And he's right. That's a good thing. Make it dedicated. Voronkov, he has the high-level rank of Undersecretary General and has over 30 years' experience with the Russian Foreign Service, working primarily within the UN. So he's the best guy for the job. Only problem is, right, Americans? He's a Russian. He has served as Russia's representative to UN organizations in Vienna, Austria, since 2011, including the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, which deals with counterterrorism. You can bet that does. Where there's drugs and crime, there's terrorism. So this guy's well aware that the CIA is a major drug-dealing cartel internationally. Voronkov has also served as Russia's deputy ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and on the board of governors of the UN's global nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Hello. So he also knows not only that the CIA is the major drug-dealing cartel that he's been keeping an eye on, he also knows that the U.S. blatantly lies about Iran. He knows they've been compliant with inspections. Iran has a clean record. He knows that. He's been involved in the inspections. And that Iran hasn't invaded another country for 200 years, as opposed to say, I don't know, the United States. I think we've invaded, 60, 70 different countries, most of them more than once.